Reverse percentage change is a grade 5 topic, and the reason it's that bit higher is because it has a confusing element around it regarding finding that original number. So let's go through this clearly. Let's first of all compare the two, how we actually do a normal decrease compared to a reverse percentage change. So here's your normal decrease, decrease 100 by 10%. So we're working out 10% by dividing it by 10, 100 divided by 10 is 10, and we're going to subtract it off the original. So 10% is 10, so we're decreasing it, we're taking the original number, taking off that 10, and it gives us 90. So that would be your answer. Now, this is a reverse percentage change, and see how it's different. A number has been decreased, so it's already happened by 10%, and the answer is 90. What is the original number? So it's not asking you to decrease 90 by 10%, it's saying it has been happened. What now do we do to get back to the original? The most common error students make here is they work out 10% of this new number. They'll work out 10% of 90. Well, 10% of 90 isn't the same as 10% of the original number. So you're going down the wrong track there. And if you did do that, you'd end up with 99. So if you've tried this and you've ended up with 99, that's why we need to go to the original. This is how we do it instead. We say, okay, it's been decreased by 10%. Original was 100%, we've taken off that 10%. We now have 90% left of our original number. And 90% of our original number is 90. Our original number was 100%, and that's the percentage that we're trying to achieve, the percentage we're trying to get back to. And how are we going to do that? Well, there's two ways. We can either go find 1% or we can find 10% of what the number was. If 90% was 90, 10% must be 90% divided by 9. It's 9 times smaller, so we're dividing it by 9. Divide the right hand side by 9 as well, and that gives us 10. 90 divided by 9 is 10. If the 10% is 10, we can multiply that by 10 in order to figure out what the original was, which would be 100. Okay, and there we can see we've got back to that original question. Okay, so let's try some GCSE questions based on this. The cost of a ticket increases, it's already happened by 10%. And here's the trick, here's the highlight, work out the original cost. So it's increased by 10% this time. So we've started with 100%, it's gone up by 10%. We now have 110%. So 110% is equal to £20.25. And we're trying to find what 100% would be. So we can either find out what 10% would be or 1%. Now, to find 1%, we're going to divide it by 110. But to go from 110% to 10%, we're dividing it by 11. Using your calculators for this one, so we're doing £20 and 25 pence, divide it by 11. That will tell us what our 10% is. Our answer is 1.8409, etc. Leave that rolling, okay? And how you're going to write this out in your answer is just 1.84 ... Now, we haven't finished our answer, so we don't round. To go from 10% back to the 100%, the original number, we now need to times it by 10 and do the same to the answer, times it by 10. And the answer we end up with gives us £18.41, rounding it to 2 decimal places because it's many, £18.41. And that's how we get the 3 marks for that question. On to the next one then. Dan has lost weight, it's gone down. He now weighs 98 kilos. He's lost 10% of his weight since March. How much did he weigh? So once again, the question is all leading us backwards, leading us back to an original. He now weighs 98. So something equals 98. What percentage is 98? He has lost 10%. So the original was 100%. He's gone down 10%. We're now at 90%. So 90% is equal to 98. We need to go back to find out what the original was, the original 100%. 2 ways again, either find 1% by dividing that side by 90 and then timesing it by 100 to get to the 100%, or we can find out what 10% is by dividing it by 9 and then timesing it by 10 once you've got that 10%. So 98 divided by 9, Once again, it's going to be a decimal answer and we're going to leave it so we're not rounding too early. 98 divided by 9 is equal to 10.888, etc. I'm going to write it as 10.8 ... So we know it continues. Oh, I should have done a few more dots at the top there. And 100% then we're going to times it by 10. And that gives us 108.89 if we're doing it to 2 decimal places. 108.89 units are in kilograms. Okay. Next question. 364,000 electric cars were sold this year. This is 20% more than last year. Once again, it's referring to previous, okay, this reverse percentage. How many were sold last year? So we know something equals 364,000, but what percentage is it? This is 20% more than last year. So it's gone up by 20%. It's now 120%. And it wants the original back to last year, which would be your 100%. Now, once again, so many jumps we can do here. I'm going to just stick with the 10%. You could even find 20% and then times it by 5. But I'm just going to stick with the same method just to keep it clear. So how do we go from 120 to 10? We're dividing it by 12. And we need to do the same to the right hand side, divide it by 12. 364,000 divided by 12 is 30,333. Once again, do not round. 30,333. And we need to times it by 10. Which is going to give us 303.3 ... Right, this is cars this time, so we can't sell 0.3 of a car. It's going to be 303 cars. 3 marks for that question. Okay, finally then, the last one. A mass of an iceberg is 2,100,000 kilos. This value is an 11% reduction. To reduce means it's gone down from the original. Work out the original mass. That word original popping up is a sure sign that it's a reverse percentage question. So we know something is 2,100,000, but what percentage is it? It's an 11% reduction. So 100% take away that 11% would give you 89%. This is one of those examples where I would work to find out what 1% is. I can't divide 89 by necessarily a nice number to get to 10%. It would be divided by 8.9. So let's work with 1% this time and then times it by 100 to get back to our original 100%. So 89 is being divided by 89 to get to 1. So the right hand side also needs dividing by 89. And then we're going to multiply that answer by 100 this time because that will give us 1%, and 1 times 100 makes 100. 2,100,000 divided by 89, there's my 1%, 23,595.5, once again, dots to show that we haven't rounded it off, times it by 100. Okay, and the decimal was 0.562, so 0.56. Okay, this time it wants us to have our answer in standard form. Now, to put your answer in standard form, we have to put a number between 1 and 10 to start with, and then times it by 10 to the power. Please watch the video on standard form if you need this going over slowly, because it's not going to be going over particularly slowly now. So our decimal point is going to go in there to make the number between 1 and 10. So it's 2.359550. Because that's a 5 there, we're going to round up that 1 to a 1. And it's times 10 to the power 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get it back to that original number. Please go ahead and watch the video on standard form if you need further help with that and it going over slowly.